For the entire season, all I've been hearing is how deep the Clippers are. How they are more of a team with a bunch of dogs. Well, that's some BS, and it's the Lakers that are actually the deeper team. So disclaimer, I made this video before the Clippers absolutely choked and blew a 3-1 lead to the Nuggets. I bought into the hype, thinking that the Clippers were actual contenders, but I forgot one thing. They're the Clippers. The Clippers gonna clip. Yeah, I guess it doesn't really matter, they're out of the playoffs, but this video is still a little relevant because why not keep clowning on the Clippers? And the fact that they're out of the playoffs makes everything that I'm about to say completely correct. Anyway, back to the video. So let's get this clear. I'm not saying that the Lakers have a better bench. I'm saying that they have a deeper bench. That means having players that are actually part of the rotation and can contribute meaningful minutes. Is the Clippers bench better than the Lakers bench? I'm afraid I have to say yes, but it's merely a technicality. Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell are absolute studs. They're really good. So good that they're better than their counterparts in the starting lineup. They're playing starters minutes. Doc Rivers is playing these guys starters minutes because they deserve those minutes. Strategically, it's to bring that energy off the bench once the starters are sitting. But these guys should actually be starters. They're clearly better than the players that are starting in their place. They are purposely having a worse starting lineup so that they can have a bench. But if they really want to put their best players out there, Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell should definitely be in there. Harrell won 6th Man of the Year, and Lou Williams was a finalist. But that's because they play more minutes than a lot of starters. They shouldn't be bench players. Trez and Lou are really good, but that pretty much makes up their bench. After those two, are any of the other bench players actually that good? Let's look at their current rotation. Their most recent starting lineup is Beverly, Paul George, Kawhi, Marcus Morris, and Ivica Zubac. Then they go to their star duo of Lou Will and Trez. But after that, who do they got? Landry Shamet and JaMychal Green? I thought Reggie Jackson was a solid pickup for them, but he hasn't even gotten playing time in their recent games. I guess Doc doesn't think he's playable. So that's pretty much their rotation. Do you really think JaMychal Green is a difference maker? Come on. The rest of their roster, Joakim Noah, Patrick Patterson, Terrence Mann, Amir Coffey, Rodney McGruder, yeah, those dudes aren't getting any minutes. And I know I'm leaving out some G Leaguers and two-way players, but that just proves my point. So this is a 9 or 10 man rotation. That's pretty standard. And teams have been known to have an even smaller rotation in the playoffs. But all I've been hearing since the beginning of the season is this incredible depth that the Clippers have. How they've got a bunch of dogs. Really? Other than Trez and Lou, who should we be worried about? Their depth is nothing but a myth. Let's look at the Lakers rotation. The usual starters are KCP, Danny Green, LeBron, AD, and JaVale McGee. The series against the Rockets, they actually sat McGee and replaced him with Markieff Morris. But the Rockets are an anomaly. That's not the rotation that they have played the majority of the season. So coming off the bench are Rondo, Caruso, Kuz, Keith, and Howard. Then Vogel usually has another guard in there to play a few minutes. It's usually Waiters or J.R. Smith. I think J.R. Smith has fallen out of the rotation and Waiters is injured, so now we're seeing THT, Talen Horton-Tucker, the rookie. And he wasn't getting his minutes during garbage time. He was getting meaningful minutes in a playoff series. So the only players that are unplayable and are only getting garbage time are Quinn Cook, Jared Dudley, and the two-way players, Kostas Antetokounmpo and Devontae Keka, if they're even on the active roster. So we're looking at typically an 11-man rotation, with 13 of the players being serviceable. That's potentially the entire active roster who the coach can trust to give him meaningful minutes. Now that's depth. And what's even more impressive is that not only can these players actually play and contribute, they are versatile as well. This allows the Lakers to change their lineups to match up with any team. They can go big, they can go small, because most of their players are multi-dimensional and can do different things. They can ask most of their players to do different tasks depending on the situation. This team is also full of guys with high IQ that know how to play the right way and to adjust on the fly. So I'm taking the Lakers roster from top to bottom over the Clippers roster every single time. Most people would agree that the duo of AD and LeBron is better than Kawhi and PG. But then they go and say the Clippers have the better team. They say it's AD and LeBron and the rest of the Lakers. Whereas the Clippers have been together longer and are a real team. And that is actually the farthest thing from the truth. The Lakers are a team. The Clippers are co-workers. And I'm not even talking about how the Lakers are like a family and all like each other off the court. I have no idea how the Clippers are off the court. But I'm talking about their actual play on the basketball court. Yes, they might have a team with a bunch of sexy names like Kawhi, PG, and Lou Williams. But how well do they actually play together? Do the pieces really fit? The Clippers have a lot of guys that can go one-on-one. But as a team, they don't really work all that well together. And what everybody has been raving about is their defense. Yes, it's true. Paul George, Kawhi, and Patrick Beverley are really good defenders. Perimeter defenders. But they are good individual defenders. And in this day and age, even the best defenders get beat very frequently. It's team defense that's important. If you look at the Lakers, yes, LeBron and AD do their thing. But the rest of the team is playing very well together as a cohesive unit, especially on defense. This is one of the best defensive teams I have ever seen, particularly when it comes to team defense. They have versatile defenders that can defend multiple positions because they have freaks of nature like LeBron James and Anthony Davis. And if you've watched them in the playoffs, their defensive schemes are amazing. Their rotations are on point. They allow very few open shots. And when the opponents get to the rim, they are met by Anthony Davis or Dwight Howard or even LeBron James. So if we're looking at the overall team, which is what really matters, I think the Lakers have the upper hand. Now let's bring the focus back to the bench. There's this concept we've heard quite a bit this season, being a star in your role. The Lakers role players and bench players in particular have really taken that to heart. They really take pride in doing what they are asked to do. Take Dwight, for example. Former All-Star, multiple Defensive Player of the Year, and then he bounced around the league. Now he's all in, doing all the dirty work for the Lakers. And if in a particular game, what they need from him is to not play, he's on the bench cheering on his teammates. Kuzma has been a second or third option up until this season. Even during this season, a lot of his teammates expected him to be that third option. But here he is, not worrying about his offense, just doing the right things, making the extra pass, playing solid defense, making those hustle plays. And of course, Caruso, the plus-minus GOAT. He just does all the right things when he's on the court. And now, playoff Rondo has arrived. This guy has been mocked, probably more so from his own fan base than any other. And now he's really showing up and is being a valuable part of what the Lakers are trying to do. All the Lakers players do whatever they need to do for the good of the team. So, while the Clippers do have a good bench, they are merely top-heavy with Montrezl Harrell and Lou Williams. while the other guys don't contribute much. The Lakers have a deeper roster with a lot more guys that can bring a positive impact to the team. And while none of the role players may be as good as Trez or Lou Williams when compared individually, they fit much better as a unit and all contribute to what their team is trying to do. They are stars in their role. But ultimately what matters is not who has the best stars, who has the best duo, the best bench. What matters is who has the best team. And I think the Lakers, from top to bottom, have the best roster and the best team.